everyone, welcome to another video on the JayBee and Milly channel. Today we're going to be discussing Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo. So we have the official kind of like synopsis, or at least we can see from the back of the DVD a little bit more what's happening. And we also have some release dates now too. So this is going to be available on digital release from the 4th of October and on DVD release for the 18th of October. So as predicted, we're going to get this in good time for Halloween. So it's certainly one of our plans to watch this through on Halloween, but also as soon as it comes out as well. And I think from being able to see the back of the DVD case, we have a little bit of an idea of what's going on here. So it says Mystery Inc. just cracked the biggest case of all. Scooby-Doo and his pals have tracked down Coco Diablo, the head of the notorious costumed crime syndicate that includes the Black Knight, Space Kook and Ghost Diver. With Coco and her kitty in prison, the gang can finally enjoy a break. Right? Wrong. Menacing doppelgangers and classic foes show up in Coolsville, threatening Halloween. So it's up to the meddling kids and their unlikely new partner to unmask the latest scoundrel. With trick-or-treating on the line, it's gotten personal for Scooby and Shaggy.
I've got a theory, and it's not mind-blowing, but it's something.
Okay.
With the way that the gang are posing in the back of the DVD, I think the reason why they're going back to Coolsville is because they're going to do some. They've been invited back by someone for some type of Halloween event, because you can see that they've set up almost a play set. Well, not like a, well, you know what I mean, like the set of a play. So they painted a background of the Mystery Machine. They've written the Mystery Incorporated logo and put that up, and there seems to be like Scooby projected on like a makeshift screen.
Almost like celebrities returning to their old school.
Yeah, and I think whoever invited them is ultimately going to be behind the plot.
So maybe it's set up by like a fan group, hence why they would have created them like almost comparatives of them, the doppelgangers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a super fan of that.
Also, taking a look at the back of the Mystery Machine, the back of the DVD, everything becomes a bit clearer. You know, we were talking about on the cover, Fred's driving a different vehicle to the Mystery Machine. That's the doppelganger's Mystery Machine.
Yeah, it still says the Mystery Machine, which is a shame in a way, because I predicted it would be the Monstery Machine. But no, I was thwarted in that particular area.
We also find out the special features El Bandito, To Switch a Witch and the Headless Horseman of Halloween. So that's really cool as well. But I guess getting into the plot a little bit here, we start to understand a little bit more of what's going on, because the trailer, I feel, left me with a lot more questions than it did answers. So we find out initially that the gang, you know, kind of, I want to compare this to Witch's Ghost. You know how there's a mystery at the start and then a mystery after?
Yeah.
Kind of getting that vibe, in that I'm thinking they track down Coco Diablo, they get put in prison, and then they return back to Coolsville.
Well, it could even be that Coco Diablo and that case is what put them on the map in this universe or in this continuity, and they're almost going back to try and recreate it. That's why they see them dressing in the costumes of the classic villains, is they're not trick-or-treating as such, because I think trick-or-treating in and of itself is not something we typically see Fred or Velma doing. So I think they're just going to be actors in the play, and they're going to almost reenact how they were originally caught. That's my thing about that.
Or that it's a Halloween celebration, which is why they'd be dressing up like they're going to this event that celebrates them.
Yeah, it could even be like, we can, because we saw in stuff like Miss Marvel recently, that those Avengers con, they could be a situation where there's like a Mystery Incorporated con every Halloween in Coolsville. That'd be cool to see them interact with, you know, fans, I guess.
It really would. And I don't know, I think it is an interesting plot. I mean, what's your thoughts on the villains they've chosen? The Black Knight, Space Kook and Ghost Diver are listed here, which I guess is Captain Cutler's ghost, right?
Yeah, I think it's a bit too safe. I think every time that they've had a chance to go back to classic villains, it's always them, and it's always from Where Are You?
Looking at Monsters Unleashed, they've got 2 out of the 3 there, right?
Yeah, and I think again in like a Curse of a Thousand, or like a Haunt of a Thousand Voices, they had some characters there from that. Like, I think it's a bit too safe, and in fact, for all I think it was a bit bland at the time, you know, looking back at it in hindsight, I think they only want to do a majority roster that isn't in Where Are You was actually in Cyber Chase.
I was just thinking Cyber Chase was done really well.
Yeah, they were mostly from, let me think, the Scooby-Doo show. But I actually think that with this new generation, for all there's a lot of, 1969 fans, and the purists always go back to that one, I think it would eventually be cool for as old as it might make us sound, given that it's the 20th anniversary of What's New this year, a kind of, best hits of What's New would be cool to have them return as the villains, So, I don't know for how long they can go, oh my gosh, it's the villains from What's New again, or the villains from Where Are You again. I think eventually it's going to get to the stage where they kind of need to start picking from some more shows, but I'm not complaining, because they've picked some good ones, especially the Ghost Clown. I don't think we often see the Ghost Clown back. I think a lot of people are expecting it to be Redbeard, but I'm happy it's Ghost Clown.
We have, but they've not listed that on the back of the DVD.
Oh.
They've only listed the Space Q, the Black Knight, and Captain Cutler.
That's interesting.
Because like you say, the Ghost Clown's not done. Maybe they think they can rely more. But that being said, like, I feel like 50 years down the line, are we thinking that maybe some of the audience... Do you think we're going to reach a stage where some of the audience is a bit like, what's that? Who's that?
See, I
it goes
think
over their head.
We're kind of already at that stage, because for all we're looking back at things, so say we're almost still learning, so we came back to it late. And you've got people, like Smash, that's, never really fallen off with it in a major way. I think it's getting to a stage where the kids nowadays, they're not keeping up to date with every movie. This is, a specialized for the purpose trick or treat movie. Say someone's just got a kid, they could go to like Walmart or Asda, find Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo and go, oh my gosh, it's nearly Halloween, I've just brought this bag of candy, my kid's dressing up this year, or my kid's getting a pumpkin this year, let's pick this up as well. So this could be the first movie that a kid ever sees of Scooby, or at least, one of the many. Maybe they've got Loch Ness Monster, maybe they've got, you know what I mean, like a weird wide variety. Maybe the parents will know Scooby and know the 69 show. I think a lot of the kids watching this don't know anymore.
So I like to be a bit controversial and bring in some skepticism, let's say. What do you think is the one thing that this movie is in fear of doing wrong? What's your biggest concern with this movie?
Honestly, I think a cop-out. And I predicted this somewhat on Twitter. It's all in the Guess Who style, from the text and the art style, the animation, and even before we knew about this, there was like a visual that popped up and it was the exact same artwork from Guess Who. I can see this being some off-the-wall, wacky thing, and it's not going to be a mystery, I don't think. Now, for all I don't think it's going to be a riveting plot point, you never go to Scooby for that, but I just think they're going to pop up with some celebrity guest star at the end, and we're all meant to like laugh our heads off and slap our knees because, oh my gosh, it's so funny, a famous person did it. That's the one thing that I'm in fear of, unless they do it right, and I don't know what that'll look like. I think there's a way to do it, but I don't know what that is. It would have to be the right guest star. Like, I don't know, there was always that thing like they've had recently, the like Peter Pan being the villain of like Chip and Dale the movie, which is controversial. But if they did like a safer version of that, where maybe the guest star is someone we know from Scooby before, like Freddie Prinze Jr., it would be goofy and a cop out, but it would kind of make sense. It could be breaking the fourth wall and acting revenge on the cancelled third movie, or just it would have to be something so wacky if it was that reveal.
JayBee, and you can get a bit upset and angry with me here, is that not in fear of what I just said as well about how it's kind of next generation Scooby? I mean, Freddie Prinze Jr. 2002, you're looking at 20 years ago. I'm gonna say children that are 8 and 10 watching this might not know that the live action's even a thing, because there's purists out there who aren't gonna rush for that to be the first thing they show their children. It's gonna be, here's Where Are You, here's What's New, not, oh yeah, so here's Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar.
But then what would appease the purists and make sense narratively? I mean, we're going back to the original series. I guess I don't know, could they get someone like Bob Singer to do a voice role, and they're like an animator that thinks that the new shows are garbage, and that's why they're bringing back the classic villains to wreak havoc on them? Like, it would have to be something on that level to break the fourth wall. But again, that's assuming that my worst fear comes true and it's just a stupid guest star. That's one thing. What's the one thing that you're at risk of it really, you know, getting wrong?
I think what I'm fearing is they're going to try and do too much that none of it's actually going to be done well. Because from the trailer, they were all in so many different outfits. And like it looked like they'd gone trick-or-treating 3 different times because of how they were all dressed up and stuff. And they've said they were going to have a mystery at the beginning, then there's going to be another one after that. I'm kind of like, is it going to be one of those things where they try and do a lot with no real purpose? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think because I'm more of a freak in terms of animation, I'm not really worried about that, because I can literally just see a situation where Shaggy and Scooby say that they're going to go trick-or-treating with a certain goal. Velma says something like, oh, but you did that the last 3 years already, and then it flashes back to 3 different outfits with them doing it, and then it flashes back to present day, just for a joke in the matter of a minute, half a minute, you know, so...
Possibly. And then I have another thought, and that is that there's a trend with movies at the minute that there's a lot of fanfare. Do you know what I mean? Like calling back to the originals. Like, you've seen the new Ghostbusters movie, for example.
Yeah.
There's a moment at the end. Marvel are doing the same thing, and just in case Rihanna's watching this back, I kind of aren't going to say what that is, but it's all about fanfare, and I'm wondering if Warner Brothers have picked up on this fanfare thing and they're like, I know, let's throw in a clip of the original. And it's kind of like, okay, how's this actually going to fit? Where's this going to be relevant? They've talked about a costume designer. So are we going to say there's this narrative where every villain in Scooby-Doo has gone to the same costume designer to get their costumes made? Then you have a timeline issue, because Scooby-Doo's never fit to a cohesive storyline. Do you know what I mean? It's always kind of like, oh, but where did that fit in? How did that fit in? So then is it going to try and say that this person made all these costumes 50 years ago? What's happened in the last 50 years? They've aged about 2 days? Okay. Do you know what I mean? I can just see some continuity issues, maybe?
I mean, maybe that's why they're going back to Coolsville, because it's that timeline, almost. There's like a timeline theory. There's the Coolsville timeline and the Crystal Cove timeline. Coolsville timeline starts with a pup named Scooby-Doo. And again, I've not read this anywhere. This is just kind of the thing that I've developed talking to Smash, talking to the people we've spoken to. So it starts with a pup named Scooby-Doo, develops into the 1969 show, which is, I guess, loosely connected. You know what I mean? And then it goes to the 1969 show. So this could just be the natural progression from that. Whereas the Crystal Cove timeline started more or less with Mystery Incorporated and has gone off to influence the last few movies that we've watched, like Sword and the Scoob, which mentioned Crystal Cove. Like, from my understanding, the fact that this is in Coolsville alone is obscure. They've not done it for so many years. Like, we remember, like, having never stopped watching the live-action movies, it's kind of stuck into your head. Oh yeah, he thinks Coolsville sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it's always been Coolsville. But for the people that have been keeping up with it, it hasn't been that for years.
I have a theory on that. I think this is the reason we're going back to Coolsville is purely because there's a good writer behind this movie. They've been quite active speaking on like our YouTube comments and stuff, right?
Yeah.
A lot of writers don't do that, so I'm thinking this is somebody that's a fan. They care about this product. It isn't just I didn't watch Scooby growing up, but here's a paycheck. I think they actually care. They seem to be putting the effort in to kind of socialise outside of. So I'm going to say this is somebody who saw Mystery Inc. in Coolsville, and then when they've got given the chance to write on Scooby, they're like, that's what I enjoyed, that's what I want.
Maybe.
And that gives me hope for this movie, that like maybe the reason they're calling back to the first series and the original villains and Coolsville is because this is actually done from the perspective of somebody who cares about it.
Then again, I agree that they obviously care, because why find YouTube, just YouTubers talking about it and comment? You know what I mean? Why followers on Instagram? Like, there's no reason to do that unless you really care. A part of me is almost like, they're almost in the eye of the storm with Warner Brothers. It wouldn't surprise me if they were kind of bricking it, for lack of a better phrase, that this movie was going to get shelved or cancelled like Holiday Haunt, and so they're that excited and grateful that it didn't, that they're doing the best they can to make sure it sells enough to justify more projects. So I don't know if that's part of it, and again, they definitely do care, but I don't think you need to have grown up on it to necessarily care about, you know, to do a good job or care about it. But my thing is, Warner Brothers has always kind of butted heads with even the creators that care. Like, all the stuff about the Curse of the 13th Ghost, like, the writer, from what I understand, was literally fighting to have Scrappy in it. He wasn't allowed to. Fighting to make it supernatural, he wasn't allowed to. But he agreed to sacrifice those two to have a continuation for Flim Flam.
I guess Warner Brothers is always gonna be involved. However, the fact that they're doing things like scrapping Holiday Haunt maybe shows they're caring less, which means the writers are going to get more freedom like they did in Zombie Island era.
See, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Because the reason Zombie Island absolutely bangs is because it was in an era where Scooby was dying off a little bit, and they were like, you can do what you want, we don't care. And you got this great movie with some supernatural reference that isn't actively fully resolved or anything like that, which is possibly why they wanted to do a return to try and bring back in all those loose ends and stuff and try and make it an unmasking. Some of the best Scooby has been when Warner Brothers doesn't get involved, and if they're like thinking, oh, we're going to shelve huge projects like Holiday Haunt because it's not worth it, if they're maybe losing some interest in Scooby, it gives, you know, people that are purely driven by their heart towards this, because, you know, a lot of people have been following this for decades. Like, it's in their heart. Like, people that are more like that to come in with some creative freedom and make a project like this. Like, I'd say Scoob was to some extent a fan project, like, you know, Takamoto Bowl and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was references that's like, you like Scooby, you're not just a writer, you genuinely care. And possibly it's going to be the same thing here. Like, I can see some things like going back to Causeville, using the original clips, the villains, where it's kind of like, you're not, you know, you're invested. Do you know what I mean?
It is just disappointing. This would have been such a big paycheck for Warner Brothers if everything had turned out right. Because Trick or Treat, a Halloween movie, then Holiday Haunt right after, that would have been movies that would have kept being bought year upon year upon year, all pumped out in the same year.
I mean, Happy Halloween was going on, like, that was still on DVD like for a few years after, right? Every Halloween you saw it. So I guess I kind of covered some of the negative. Let's go on to a little bit of the positive. What's the one thing that excites you the most about this movie?
Ooh, you know, it sounds weird to say. My initial thought was just that it was happening. But I think ultimately from what we see of the trailers and everything, I'm excited that for the most part we're going to get this cast reunited for some more adventures. And ultimately, I think, obviously apart from Kate Micucci, but I actually think that they're all going to do a good job and just bring a lot of fun to things, you know. I'm excited to see where they're going to go in terms of parallels of that gang versus their evil doppelgangers. I think it'd be really cool if each of the voice actors got an experience or an opportunity to play evil versions of themselves. I hope that the villains, you know, the evil mystery do talk, and that is the case, but that's about it, you know, just the fact that it's happening and that we're going to get to see the cast that we know and love, apart from Kate Micucci, just back at it.
Yeah, I heard Velma's voice in that trailer. Sorry. Anyway, I'd say my big positive was, honestly, like I was saying, just the writer. Like, there's certain writers of Scooby where it just clicks for me, and there was a lot where it didn't. Like, I'm looking over at our DVD shelf now, and there was kind of an era, I'm gonna say it's around the like Lego movies and that kind of thing, where I completely fell out of love watching Scooby-Doo. There was about 7 smash or passes that we did in a row where it was a pass every time. I just wasn't enjoying it. And then the writer of The Gourmet Ghost switched it all back around for me. From that movie on, I was back invested and I loved it. And I think, like I say, just from the interactions and what I've seen in the trailer, I genuinely just think the writer of this could bring about a new era of Scooby, like from a fan to a fan kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's very early days, very quick turnaround. One thing that I'm curious about is the release. Why they're doing it so split. Like, it isn't really, but it kind of is.
Couple of theories here. And I think, was it Grey Delisle kind of hinted towards this a little bit on Twitter? That if it's a DVD release, the cast don't get as much in residual.
What, DVD?
If it's a digital release, the cast don't get as much in residual. Because DVDs obviously fetch more. So for a DVD, you're looking at paying, let's say, £10 in the UK, like $13, $15. Whereas for a digital release, you're maybe looking at paying about £4, so $6. The same money's not there. It also doesn't get given the same promotion. Like, you don't get to see it on shelves and stuff like that to let people know it's there on digital release, which it always confuses me why people would want to do things digitally.
Yeah, so I get Warner Brothers are stupid, but so is your theory then that they're doing a digital release first to stiff the actors out of residuals and to tank the ratings?
My kind of prediction is that if it goes on digital, maybe Warner Brothers get more first.
Ah, okay.
And I'm going to suggest it's a similar thing with the Morgan Baden book by doing it as an ebook. It's Warner Brothers as the property holders and Scholastic as the property holders that perhaps will benefit more from that than Morgan Baden herself, even though she wrote it. Because I think it's kind of more when it gets to DVD and book releases that, you know, the writers and actors and everything start to see more return. But I could be wrong. That's just kind of the vibe that I've picked up on from what I've seen.
We may be at a slight disadvantage here because it always used to be released on the same day, if I'm not mistaken, you know, digital and physical. Now, we always got the DVD release for some reason in the UK. It was the same date, but whenever we ordered it, pre-ordered it, it always arrived, say, 3 or 4 days early. So we were pretty much getting our DVDs the same day that everyone who's sponsored, you know, like the sellouts, they got their DVDs. So here's where I'm thinking. I wonder if those people that are just given free copies to say nice things about the movie, if they're gonna get a digital download code early now, or if we're just getting it at the same time. Like, I don't know. It's a weird one, because before I felt ahead of the game that we could do our review the same time as the sponsored people, except do an honest version of it. Whereas now I'm like, if they're gonna get a release, like a promo code 3-4 days before, then maybe that's a thing as well. Maybe they knew that was going on, and so in a way now it's just gonna get frilled with, you know, such and such, you know, Instagram accounts. There's the movie, it's the best Scooby movie of all time. This YouTube channel says that it's awesome. Like, I don't know if that's part of it.
I have a couple of thoughts. You've got to bear in mind that this isn't that far away from release, like 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I think it's almost been dropped quite on the spot. Like, my next question for you is, if Holiday Haunt hadn't been cancelled, say if we were looking at seeing that in November, do you think we'd be getting Trick or Treat this year?
See, here's the thing. Smash mentioned in a Q&A that crypto's potentially been shelved. Now, to me, shelved means recorded, scripted, directed, possibly animated, but they've just decided, oh no, maybe not now. It could be a situation where this would happen maybe next year if Holiday Haunt had gone through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why? Like, why not just put out what you create?
Because maybe they're thinking there's 2 releases too close together. To get Holiday Haunt out for Christmas, you'd probably be looking at late November. This, they're looking at early October. It's barely 6 weeks apart.
I don't think companies can afford to do this anymore, though. When we've got Marvel doing like 5 movies a year and 4 TV shows, I don't think Warner Brothers can be stingy and go, okay, we'll save this so we've got stuff to go on. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously they're not going to play catch up because I don't think they've got the intelligence to read the room and to read the market. But I'm going to say that that type of thinking is just so anti what's going on, and it makes sense normally. Like, it's not the norm to do that. I'm going to say it's not the norm to release 2 to 3 films every year. But in a world where Marvel's doing what they're doing with TV shows and films, eventually that's going to change the market and people are going to get a new standard of content. Like, Marvel's in people's mind every month. And I think Scooby is never going to die out, even if they stop making movies tomorrow. But I think in terms of capturing the modern day kids, you know, the kids that are in year 1 and year 2 that go to the shops with their parents every week, and they kind of go to the DVD aisle and like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that Scooby before, I'm gonna pick it up. Even if it came out last week, even if it came out 15 years ago, it doesn't matter, they've just never seen it. I think in terms of capturing that audience, they need to keep on producing the content.
Yeah, I'd say they certainly need to kind of up their game, because we were almost in a position for a little bit where it felt like we weren't going to get one Scooby movie this year. Ordinarily, we used to get 2. So it's kind of conflicting as to what their plan is moving forwards. I don't know. And like, when this was even written, because it seems to have been pulled out of nowhere, which is kind of what I was thinking in regards to you saying, like, will other people be ahead and all this kind of thing. I almost feel like there isn't time for them to be. Almost like this was an emergency decision. Like, we've shelved Holiday Haunt. We've shelved Crypto. What do we do? I
just wonder who's behind all this stuff, because the head of Warner Animation, Sam Register, he, from what I can gather, is a pretty cool geezer. You know what I mean? He knows his stuff, he knows the market, and he knows what will do well. I'm not sure how involved he was with the whole Scoob Holiday Haunt stuff, because that seemed to have been through the merger between HBO Max, Discovery. I don't know if he was involved with that, but it's just, I don't know what I'd be curious about is the communication, whether the people that shelved Scoob Holiday Haunt were in touch with Sam Register about the release of this movie. That's the one thing that I want to know, how coordinated the departments are.
Okay, so I guess my kind of finishing topic is why Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo and why not Holiday Haunt? It seems to be like we've got one or the other. Now, my theory is the way in which they were going to release Holiday Haunt was different to what they've done before. Like, wasn't it an exclusive HBO Max or something?
Which, in and of itself, to me, not discrediting Holiday Haunt, but right from the start, to me, that's a stupid idea.
It's like, okay, well, we're isolated because HBO Max isn't a thing in the UK. Or if it is, a lot of people don't have it.
It's not in the UK at all.
Okay, so then it's like, okay, so again, not saying that we do this, but then it's a case of, okay, so anybody in the UK has to illegally stream it, which would encourage people in the US to illegally upload it or host viewings, which is surely, you know, Warner Brothers are missing out on some money and funding and stuff there, because there'd be people interested in getting it. Not only that, but I think weren't they tied into some kind of contract to stream it there, but which would mean that it was based on people's subscription to HBO Max instead of having individual sales. Like, this has got the individual sales of the digital download and DVD, which then refinances back into Warner Brothers. Whereas that was just a streaming platform for pre-existing subscribers and stuff.
Yeah, I think the whole streaming setup at this point has become unwise, just in general.
I'd personally say they should have gone down the route they did with the first Scoob movie. It should have been a cinema release.
Yeah, they should have stuck this in the cinema. 100%.
And people would have loved it. I mean, could you imagine that? What little kid, and even JayBee and me at 25, isn't going to be happy putting on a Christmas hat, going into the cinema, picking up their popcorn, and going to see a movie in December on the build up to Christmas after you've just been around the garden centre seeing all the Christmas
Imagine
lights.
that, yeah. All the lights in the windows, the kind of smell of frost in the air, maybe even the roar of a fire. And then you hear that there's a Scooby movie about Christmas.
That would have done mad sales. Like, think about that. Yeah. Like, every child just breaks up for their Christmas holiday from school, 2 weeks off, and every parent in the world is like, oh, what am I gonna do? We can't take them outside because it's rainy, it's snowy, it's not great, like the weather's not nice to go out anywhere. We need to do something indoors. There's a directed to children Christmas movie on at the cinema. What parent isn't going to be like, come on kids, go grab your hats, your coats, your scarf, we're going to go and see a movie. And do you know what, even if your kids don't like it, this is what mum and dad or mum and mum or dad and dad used to watch when we were growing up.
Well, you're going to get Christmas songs, Christmassy songs, like anything. There's no downside. What they should have done, maybe get it out mid to late November and have it show, maybe mid-November, have it showing throughout. Don't take it out the cinema, but literally have the DVD come out 15th or 20th of December, and you've got your kid also the best stocking filler that they need.
I actually feel really strongly about
double the money.
I actually can feel this genuine strong thing that I'm feeling towards it, because how, as a kid, JayBee, how much would you have loved it if it was Christmas Eve and literally you were putting on a Santa hat to go and see a Scooby-Doo Christmas movie?
Not just that, a Scooby-Doo Santa hat. With it being a cinematic release, they could have done merch.
Oh wait, but then Warner Brothers don't do the merch in the UK. It would only have been available in America.
Like imagine a little pop-up store at Morrison's or Walmart. Like they could have had
just cinema for goodness sake.
It would have been so cheap. Ball, just make it white, make it red, make it green. Scoob Holiday Haunt logo on it. Sell it for $2.50. People will buy that. Even just with Scooby's face on it, people are gonna buy it. I think it's just ridiculous that they wouldn't do that. And that David Zaslav that took over, if there's one thing I agree with him on, it's focusing on theatrical releases. But Scoob, the first one, was made to be theatrical. It just wasn't because of the pandemic. So there's no reason why they should just take this movie and just not release it. Like,
I am saying they would have made so much money. Like, if they want to, sit there and cry about 4 million in tax or whatever it was, I don't even remember.
They've lost so much money now,
If they'd have done that, they'd have made so much more. But it's because, it's almost like if they got into a contract with HBO Max that it was guaranteed to be their property or something.
But why? That's such a bad business model.
It sounds so stupid. Like JayBee and I've said, that could have been an ideal Christmas release. I genuinely couldn't think of anything better than finishing my last day at work for Christmas. I think I get to finish on about the 21st of December, driving home, picking up JayBee, and that being the start of my Christmas.
One day people are gonna eat their words about something I've said. Ever since we started the podcast, I've been saying Warner Brothers don't know what they're doing with Scooby. It needs to go to a company like Disney. It needs to go to Disney. And everyone always says, that's a stupid idea, Disney own too much. What do you mean they own too much? Well. Obviously they have a vicious monopoly on it. Obviously they're vicious, right? But it's maybe they've got the resources, but they work hard as well. There's been stuff, maybe they work too hard, because they've had so many controversies about not treating their VFX people well. But it's a situation where they just do so much, and it's like us. We do an interview consistently, one every week, whereas most other shows like ours do one maybe once a month, once every 2 weeks, longer than
Disney.
that. I think we are the Disney at this point. We produce it. We don't overhype and underperform. It's just out. Like Disney.
We don't shelve it for 2 years and then think, we need something to go out now. What do? We do weekly interviews. We do normally I let JayBee do all this talking stuff about what we do. But do you know what we actually do? Weekly interviews at least once, because with some celebrations and stuff, we're going to hit more than that. It can be twice a week and stuff.
Yeah, we've had a situation where there's been literally 3 in a row. And I think it was recently, I think it was the Morgan Baden announcement, the Ed Sharlach interview, and then the Paul Becker interview.
But it's like that, I don't know why Warner Brothers would be we'll keep this on the shelf. You don't know when you're going to need it. I guarantee the more
Warner Brothers mess up, if they haven't already, eventually all the people that were saying that Disney shouldn't do Scooby, they're going to be on my side by the end of it. Because I just know that they're going to mess up again.
Well, see, this is the thing, is Disney would make it better, and I hate to say it,
or
but
they would just make it and release it. Like, say what you want about Disney, they release what they make.
I get the Disney store closed recently and everything, but think about Holiday Haunt if it was done by Disney. When you do your Christmas shop in a shopping centre, and there used to be a Disney store, you'd get Holiday Haunt baubles, you'd get Holiday Haunt stockings,
snow globes,
teddies and snow globes.
Man,
it would be so good. But the fact of the matter is, Warner Brothers are absolute trash when it comes to promotion. Literally, they do leave it down to like anybody that cares about Scooby to do it. Like the Save This Holiday Haunt thing, look how much exposure that got because the community cared.
They will never fail though.
Didn't care
financially, I don't think. As long as Warner has Harry Potter, I reckon they can do whatever they want with other
franchises. But it's like the trust fund kid who gets their inheritance and then does. I've got an example in mind of who I'm thinking of. Like, it's like a trust fund kid who gets their inheritance and then lives off it and just doesn't work hard. Like, they had Harry Potter, they've got their inheritance, that's going to cover them for life. And now it's just, oh, I can do this project, I can do this project. It's not about what makes financial sense. It's not about trying to capitalise and market things very well. It's just a case of, oh, well, I've got enough.
I just don't get it, because with this and Holiday Haunt, it would have just been business as usual. It wouldn't have been Warner Brothers going above and beyond, right? It wouldn't have been, oh, you know, we're just going to save this for later because we've hit quota. They've not hit quota yet.
This is going to be controversial because I'm actually excited about this movie. And like I say, I think the writer's done an incredible job of everything that I've seen so far. But if it came down to it between this and Holiday Haunt, we have Happy Halloween. We've got a Halloween Scooby-Doo movie. Do we have a Christmas Scooby movie? No.
Well, I disagree. I disagree about if it's between this and that. Cause...
No, if it comes down to that. I was excited, like...
Well, I was more excited for Holiday Haunt than I am for this. I'll say that much. I think there was more going on. Like, it was just different, right? Because we've had a lot of movies with this continuity in loose terms with this cast, who I do like, with the exception of Kate McCurdy. But we've got so many there's so much going on with Holiday Haunt with up and coming stars like McKenna Grace, who's fresh off of Ghostbusters, Ian Armitage, who's young Sheldon, like so many new people that I think, especially, and this is just because I know them the most from, like, you know, their movies, McKenna Grace. So say, who's a legendary actor that our generation knows? I guess we always have Judi Dench or Meryl Streep, right? They're like, oh my gosh, look at them. I think our kids, grandkids will talk about McKenna Grace the same way we talk about, you know, Meryl Streep and stuff. This would have been...
Thompson.
Yeah, like Emma Thompson. This would have been one of the first projects from that cast of, you know, the future generation of acting. And that's what I was excited for, to see where that would go. And with them being kids, they could literally replicate Harry Potter again. We could have them going from Kid Mystery Inc., and there could be a series of movies watching them, same actors, same cast, growing up and develop as people until eventually we get a Scoob, which, you know, but that's kind of my thing. Like, I think there's more potential in that because it didn't have to fit into the direct-to-video movie format. It could have been a continuity, character arcs, it could have been a saga, and I think there's more potential in that than this. So this could come out and be fantastic, which I'm absolutely sure it is. But do I think that they're going to do a Trick or Treat 2 where it addresses all the character development that these guys have been through in this movie and expand upon it? No. They're going to do another movie next year, maybe 2 movies next year if we're lucky. That's going to be a fun, interesting story, I'm sure, but it's just going to be fun. I think Scoob Holiday Haunt would have been fun, but with potential of further growth. World building. So I'm not going to say if it's a choice, because obviously, like Holiday Haunt, this movie has writers, animators, storyboard artists, composers, all the people involved in it that I've no doubt put all their hard work into it. But I'm going to say definitely I was more hyped for Holiday Haunt than this. And that's kind of that's kind of my piece on it. And like you say, we've already got Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, which was fun, but I don't know if we needed another one this soon. I really don't.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I'm just looking, and if you bear with me a second, I was kind of getting the numbers up of how much, because I think you raised a really valid point about just how much, you know, like Warner Brothers capitalized off Harry Potter, and it almost just seems like nothing else mattered. Do you know what I mean?
This is my controversial thoughts that I've just had.
Okay.
Obviously, actors get paid more when the movie comes out.
Yeah.
So, I love the cast of the Scooby movies. I really do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Lillard, fantastic. Grey Delisle, fantastic. Frank Welker, legend, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they've kind of been on the scene for a while, right? And the world of acting is tough. People don't last forever. And sometimes people retire, and some of them in that cast aren't too far off from retirement age or something, right?
The Holiday Haunt could have been a good reboot.
Well, not just that. I don't think it would have been. I think it would have been its own thing. But from a business perspective, McKenna Grace is the future of the Ghostbusters franchise now for Sony. One of the biggest franchises that's ever been. And it's like, why would you want to annoy who you could eventually, maybe 5 years from now, be making a movie that you want them in? Like, surely that's just severing or muddying the water with a lot of upcoming stars.
You'd think so.
That haven't had their heyday yet.
And while we're talking about kind of Holiday Haunt and how it was, you know, financially based and everything, for the money that they have, how much do you think, and we talked about Harry Potter being like their main income,
Oh yeah.
how much do you think the Harry Potter franchise is worth?
Jesus, like worth?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say nothing short of 50 billion.
Okay, you're correct. It's not much short of 50 billion. $43.19 billion.
Oh.
And they don't have the money to pay tax for Holiday Haunt.
They could literally just put out a Harry Potter Funko Pop, the 78th billion variant of Harry Potter Funko Pop, and make up that money.
Yep.
But that's why Warner's will never fail, because if somebody even like Disney want to not just buy Scooby, but buy Warner Brothers, they are essentially buying Harry Potter, and I don't think they've got the money, I think, but I don't think they've got the pocket to go, okay, this is worth it.
I mean, it's a lot for something that's almost just left now. You know what I mean?
For me, what's a great thing? Like, you can think something's fantastic, but be hesitant. So say a Sarah Michelle Gellar autograph, £500. Even if I had the money, it wouldn't just be an easy decision. So even if you've got the means, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do it. Like Disney, I don't think they would ever buy Warner Brothers.
Okay, but hear me out. They bought Marvel, right?
I think they absorbed Marvel. So
Okay.
yeah, essentially.
Marvel net worth at the same time that was the net worth of Harry Potter was 53 billion.
Really?
Yeah.
From just because I think the first Disney Marvel was Avengers. Oh.
As of 2021, which is the same time I was talking about for what Harry Potter was worth at that time. Was worth
No,
53
I think
billion.
they got Marvel quite early on, especially Marvel Studios. That was like 2012.
Yeah, they'd have got it for cheaper than that. What I'm saying is, like, Marvel and Harry Potter are worth a similar amount.
Really?
Yeah. Which is kind of mad, because Marvel's, like, huge.
Warner Brothers also own DC as well.
Yeah. It'd be a lot to absorb, but ultimately, I think one day it'll happen. I think Warner Brothers are gonna... Harry Potter's gonna have to run out eventually. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's not in our lifetime.
I don't know. It's stuff for life, really, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, our life.
I don't know. I think people are still gonna pick it up. Like,
No, like, I find the next generation aren't taken to Harry Potter in the same way. Like my nieces and nephews just don't take to it the same way.
yeah, but I think they're gonna at least know
We'll know of it, but I don't think it'll have the same stature.
No, but I think they come out with a future adaptation and just stick a bunch of TikTok stars in as the cast. And the kids are going to be screaming and shouting about it.
Maybe. I think that kind of does it for thoughts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of went into more of like a holiday haunt.
I mean, that in itself is a video.
But it's an important discussion to surround around about this movie, the release, why it's so quick. It's an important discussion to have. But again, I might just clip it and make it his own thing and just literally milk the situation. But I don't know. I don't know.
Thanks so much for listening. We will be reviewing Trick or Treat as soon as it comes out, and also keeping you up to date with any updates that do come out on the movie, and anything else that we can like find out or anything for you ahead of release date. Again, 4th of October for digital, and I guess pre-order for the DVD will probably be out pretty soon on places like Amazon and everything, so keep an eye out for that and subscribe for future content. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Hey.